Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another tier list video. It's been a while since I have done one of these, and I figured since the newest Pokemon games, Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, have been out a couple months now, and I've had some time to think about all of these Pokemon, I figured it was time to go ahead and make a tier list video of all of the new Gen 9 Pokemon, and there were quite a few. So we are just going to start at the beginning. We're going to start with Sprigatito. And for me, Sprigatito is an easy A-tier Pokemon. I really enjoy this Pokemon. It's my favorite of all three starters. Yeah, it's just a quick and easy A-tier. Floragato is next. It's the evolution of Sprigatito. And, you know, a lot of middle-tier evolutions just don't hold up to either their pre-evolution or their final form. Floragato was in the same area, and for that it is in the B tier for me. Up next is Meowscarada. This is the final form of the grass starter of Sprigatito, and I actually really like Meowscarada's design. It is an S tier Pokemon for me. Even though Pokemon did what I didn't want them to do and made it bipedal, it's still one of my favorite Pokemon in this game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next set of starters here, starting with Fuecoco. Fuecoco for me sits in the B tier. Still a solid starter, but there are quite a few Pokemon in this generation that I really enjoy. Its evolution, Crocolore, that's how I've been pronouncing it anyway. This one actually makes it a tier higher than Fuecoco, and goes into the A tier for one specific reason, and it's the fire sombrero on the top of his head. I absolutely love it. It goes in the A tier with Sprigatito. However, the final form of these fire starters, Skeledirge, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of the final form evolution. It goes in the F tier for me. I don't know, it wasn't doing it for me. Up next is Quaxly. Quaxly, like Fuecoco, sits in the B tier. Oh, we don't want the both of those. We just want the Quaxly. Quaxly goes in the B tier with Fuecoco, and from here it is all downhill. Quaxwell, its evolution actually sits in the D tier for me. I'm not a fan of it. And then its final evolution, Quaquaval, also goes into the F tier. The starters just weren't that good this generation. I don't know what to say. Up next we have Lechonk and its evolutions, Oinkologne. And despite them having different forms as they evolve, they have a male and a female version, they all go into the B tier. I really actually like this Pokemon. I still need to go through and shiny hunt them. I want to get 3 of these, 3 shiny Lechonks. That way I can just have one of every form. One male evolved form, I guess one male shiny Oinkologne, one female shiny Oinkologne, and then, of course, the shiny Lechonk. I will do that in due time, though. Up next is one of the first bug Pokemon you meet in the game. I've been pronouncing it Tarantula. I don't know if that's how it is pronounced. That's how I've been pronouncing it, and I've never been the biggest fan of bug types. So, because of that, it just sits in the C tier. Up next is Spidops, and Spidops, funny enough, even though I like it more than its pre-evolution, it is just weird enough. It doesn't make it into the B tier, it still sits in the C tier because it is a bug type. But Spidops it's a hilarious Pokemon, I love it. Up next is Nimble, again, bug type Pokemon, not a huge fan of bugs, don't really have too many thoughts about it. So it is going to sit in the C tier as well, along with its evolution, Lokix. Lokix also gets to sit in the C tier. Up next we have Pawmi, and this Pokemon goes into the C tier for me as well. It's a cute Pokemon. That's really all it's got going for it. I tried using it and it just seemed a little weak. Its evolution, Pawmo, actually goes into the D tier. And for one specific reason, and it is super annoying to evolve. This isn't the first thing we'll see, or for only thing we'll see in the D tier because of this. Yeah, it goes into the D tier just because it was so annoying to evolve. Its final evolution, Pawmot, however, goes in the B tier. I really love what they did to Pawmot's hair, where they made it all, I don't know, it's like an anime protagonist. There's just something about it, and I love it. It's the sole reason I like it the most is the hair. Up next is Paldean Wooper. And, I mean, what can I say about this thing? It's a burned Wooper. Someone tried to cook up a Wooper, they left it in the oven too long, they pulled it out, and this is it. It's just a charred Wooper. Still goes in the C tier, but there wasn't really a huge design change from Wooper to Paldean Wooper, except maybe the bigger tail, I guess. Clodsire, on the other hand, it's a B tier. It's a blobfish. I love it. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Tandemouse is up next. Tandemouse, I will say, I first saw this thing on the mini-map, and I spent a couple of hours trying to find this Pokemon. One, I wanted to know what it was, and two, when I found it, I fell in love with it. Tandemouse goes into the A tier. Now, its evolution, Mousehold, it's one of the few Pokemon in this game where its evolution has multiple forms predetermined by its pre-evolution. That being said, I do like one form over the other, despite there being no difference. The 3-mouse Mousehold goes into the A tier with Tandemouse, which is the rarer version, I do believe. However, I really like the 4-mouse Mousehold just a little bit more. It is actually one I used in my first playthrough. And only after I beat the game did I just realize how strong this Pokemon was with its signature move, Population Bomb. Absolutely absurd. I love this thing. Up next is Fidough. And I mean, it's a bread dog. That's really all I have to say about it. It goes in the C tier. It's okay. Its evolution, Dashbun, on the other hand, is also a bread dog. But this time, it is a burnt bread dog. Still C tier, but I do like it more than Fidough. Up next is Smoliv, and I actually found this Pokemon to be very, very annoying in the overworld. Because it was so small, I couldn't see it while I was running through the overworld, and I'd run into it, and it was just pretty annoying. Smoliv, and actually its evolutions also go in the D tier. I'm just not a big fan of this Pokemon. Dolliv, D tier is where an Arboliva also goes into the D tier. Arboliva, however, is in the D tier, not because of how small it is, but because I hate having it as a teammate in the Terra raids, especially, well, both online and offline. Whenever it sets up grassy terrain, it just takes unnecessary time to heal, and you lose out on time. I've lost a lot of raids due to someone using an Arboliva, whether it was someone online or one of the computers. Up next is Squawkabilly, and this Pokemon also has different forms, or rather colors, different colors. And when I first saw this Pokemon, I was happy with it. I saw it and I was like, this is great. They're parrots. There is one that is higher than the others, and that's just because I like the color more, and it's the blue Squawkabilly. Blue Squawkabilly sits in the A tier, where the other 3 sit in the B tier. It's a parrot, but I love it. Up next, we've got... Let's see, who do we want to pick next? Knackley. Let's go with this one. Knackley and its evolutions are interesting. I believe it's Knacklestack is what I'm going to call it. Knacklestack? I don't know. And then Gargankle. These Pokemon are interesting. I mean, first evolution, you got a Mario Mushroom. And then it turns into like Minecraft or something. Although the meme potential for these Pokemon is great, I'm just not a big fan of these Pokemon, despite how strong they might be. And because of that, they all go into the D tier. Maybe if I end up using them in a playthrough, that might change my mind, but as of right now, definitely D tier. Up next is Annihilate, and this Pokemon is great. I absolutely love this Pokemon. I actually used it in my second playthrough, where I was just using a bunch of older Pokemon that got new evolutions. and it carried the rest of my team. This Pokemon for me is definitely an S tier Pokemon. I love it. Up next, let's do Charcadet. Charcadet and its evolutions, Armarouge and Ceruledge. We were introduced to Armarouge and Ceruledge before the games even came out, and then once the games came out, we found out that, hey, it has a pre-evolution. I enjoy all of these Pokemon, and for me, all three of these guys sit in the A tier. They are very strong Pokemon. That is a text message I just got. I'm very professional when it comes to recording YouTube videos, as you guys all know. But yeah, I really like them. They're both strong. You got Ceruledge being the physical attacker and Armarouge being the special attacker. Very fun Pokemon to use. Let's do Tadbulb. Tadbulb will do next, and okay, this one goes into the F tier. And it's not because I dislike the Pokemon, but rather because I tried to shiny hunt this thing, and it is so small, and the color only changes, like the orange changes to a red, like its tail changes colors, and that's it. It irritated me so much that I gave up on it, at least for the time being. I'll go back and get it. I really like this Pokemon, but it's still F tier. It's still an F tier because of how annoying it is for me to shiny hunt. Bellable, on the other hand, was the main reason I wanted to get a shiny Tadbulb. I really like this Pokemon. It's really good for soloing raids. It goes in the B tier for me. A lot of solid Pokemon that I've enjoyed this generation thus far. Up next is Wattrel, the bird-type Pokemon. The regional bird. It didn't have a 3-stage evolution, though. So it very much reminded me of... Oh, what was it? I believe the Gen 3 bird. I'm blanking on its name right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's a solid Pokemon. Both of them are, actually. So they are going to go into the B tier. Now, before I go any further and I forget, let me know in the comments down below, what is your favorite Pokemon for this generation? But yeah, Kilowattrel and Wattrel also go in the B tier. Up next is the Dunsparce, and the Dunsparce is the evolution of Dunsparce, of course, but it is also another Pokemon with multiple forms predetermined by its pre-evolution. It has a 2-segment one and a 3-segment one, and the 2-segment one for me goes into the C tier just because it isn't ridiculous enough, but the 3-segment, the Dunsparce, now that one goes into the A tier due to how ridiculous it is. I absolutely adore this thing. Up next, let's go with Faradraff. Faradraff for me goes into probably the C tier. Haven't really had a chance to use it too much. It didn't seem all that strong to me when I did attempt to use it. But yeah, it'll just sit in the C tier. Up next is Mastiff. And this Pokemon sits in the B tier. There's not too much I like about it. It's just a pure dark type, I believe. But its evolution, on the other hand, my Bostiff, this one, it's just going to go in the C tier. It's going to go in the C tier. It's an okay design. It gets bumped up from D tier just due to its role in the story and Arven's storyline. So it is a C tier Pokemon, in my opinion. We'll move on to Shroodle is next. Shroodle, the pre-evolution of Drafii. And Shroodle, for me, is going to sit in the C tier. It's an okay-looking Pokemon. I don't really have too many thoughts about it. And its evolution is Grafaiai, again, goes into the B tier. Now, this Pokemon, it's weird, because I thought it might get an evolution, but it got a pre-evolution instead with Shroodle. I tried using it, and it just didn't make the final cut on my team. We'll go with the Paldean Tauros next. Tauros, actually one of the, I think, only regional variants that has multiple forms. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it has its normal form, which is the fighting type. And then it has its Aqua Breed and Flame Breed. I think Aqua is in Violet and Scarlet has the fire. I have never actually ran into either the Aqua Breed or the Flame Breed on my playthroughs. So for that, I'm just going to throw them all into C tier. I tried using Paldean Tauros, and it didn't work out. I really thought I had the the fire type, and then I didn't, and I was like, well, I'm not going to use this one. Next we have Bramble. And Bramble falls into the same issue as Pomo. And it's going to go in the D tier. The way to... Wait, is this... Yeah. Yeah, the way to evolve this thing is just annoying. This is the one where you also have to walk way too long in order to get it to evolve. And then it evolves into Bramblegast, which is also a D tier Pokemon for me. It's just Tumbleweed. They took one Tumbleweed and evolved it into another Tumbleweed. I wasn't a huge fan of these guys. Then you have Toedscool. Also a D tier. Same with its evolution. Same with Toedscool. Both of these go into the D tier. They're interesting in concept, not being regional forms of Tentacruel and Tentacool. But I just... Every time I see a Toedscool, I think it's the shiny form, and I get excited, and then it isn't. They're just D tier for me. Let's see, what do we have left here? Quite a few, actually. So let's go through, let's do Cloth next. Cloth, one of the Pokemon that ended up being a Titan form. I didn't use it too much, I don't have too many thoughts on it, so it'll just go in the C tier. I mean, it's just a rock type. It's Crab. Next we have Capsakid. Capsakid for me actually goes into the A tier. I like this thing. I love the fact that it's based off of a Kappa, a creature in Japanese mythology, as well as just its capsaicin. It's great. I love it. And then it evolves into the only fire grass type ever. However, for me, it misses the mark. It's just got a red bell pepper and a green bell pepper's heads. Its evolution, for me, actually goes into the D tier, Scovillain. Next, we have Rellor. Rellor goes in the A tier, along with its evolution, Rabsca. Rabsca? I don't know how to pronounce this thing. These Pokemon are great. Actually... Rabsca's gonna go in the B tier. Pre-evolution, Rellor goes in the A tier just because it's a dung beetle. I mean, what? Oh. They made a dung beetle in Pokemon. Next we have... Let's do Flittle. We'll do Flittle and its evolution next, Espathra. And these Pokemon are very interesting. First off, Flittle I am going to be putting in the F tier. For multiple reasons. One, it's so small, you run into this thing, and you're like, where'd you come from? It's an annoying Pokemon in the wild. And when I tried to shiny hunt it, I caught one, but the change in color was so different. Like, the pink turned to green at the, like, under where, like, the skirt area is. It was just annoying. Espathra, on the other hand, this thing, after careful consideration, it's going to go in the S tier for me. Mainly because of its shiny form. I just absolutely love this thing. It's great in raids. It has a solid shiny form. And I just wouldn't think Flittle would evolve into this majestic thing. I love it. Okay, let's... This is probably the only time an evolution line will be as loved by me as it is. And that is going to be the Tink line. The Tinkatink, Tinkatuff, and Tinkaton, all three of these Pokemon are S tier in my opinion. I remember running into a Tinkatink and immediately throwing it on my team. And then it evolved into Tinkatuff, and I was like, this Pokemon still looks great. And then Tinkaton comes around, and I get its signature move, and Gigaton Hammer with 160 base power, where the only drawback is you can't use it twice in a row. This thing was great. It carried me through a lot of battles. Up next is, let's do Wiglet. Wiglet in its evolution Wugtrio. Again, this was the same thing they tried to do with the Toedscruel, where it's not related to Diglett at all. It just looks like Diglett. Because of that, Wiglet goes into the D tier, but Wugtrio actually gets a boost and goes into the C tier. Wugtrio is fantastic. Its shiny form is good. I still need to go through and shiny hunt it. Wugtrio, I love. Bombardier is up next. This was another Pokemon that ended up being a Titan Pokemon, and I don't really have too much to say about it. It's just gonna sit in the C tier. Ooh. Okay, let's move on to the Dolphins. These Pokemon are fantastic. I remember first seeing it and I was like, are those just dolphins? And I go and catch it, and sure enough it was. And after I got it to like level 50, Finizen that is. Finizen is who we're talking about right now. It didn't evolve, and I figured out how to evolve it. And it turns into a superhero, and I absolutely love it. Finizen is going to go in the B tier. Cool Pokemon. Its evolved form, Palafin, is going to go in the A tier. Good Pokemon. And then its hero form, the 0 to hero form, is going to go in the S tier. This thing was great. I love everything about Palafin hero form. Next we have Varoom. And Varoom and its evolution, Reveroom, are both just going to sit in the C tier. I think they're solid Pokemon. They were able to be customized by the one of the teams in this game. You had like poison, fire, things like that. It would have been cool if we could have done that as well, but, you know, they're still cool. Actually, they're poison by default. Actually, that's kind of funny. You know what? Now that I just looked over and realized they're poison by default because they're cars, they're going to go up to the B tier. I like these things even more now. Up next is Cyclizar, and I've got to say, F tier. This Pokemon, there's no reason to use Cyclizar if you have access to Koraidon or Miraidon. You can't even write it like they showed in any of the trailers. Yeah, Cyclizar is just, it's an F tier Pokemon for me. We'll move on to Orthworm next. Orthworm being another Titan Pokemon. I actually like Orthworm quite a bit. Solid shiny Pokemon, has the signature ability Earth Eater, where it's just immune to ground type attacks. Orthworm could be really fun to use in a playthrough. Up next, we've got Glimmet. Let's go with Glimmet in its evolution, Glimora. And these Pokemon, they're going to be C tier. They're going to be C tier for me, both of them, Glimmet and Glimora. They're okay. I don't really have too many things to say about them. Haven't really used them in a playthrough just yet. I might try using them in a future playthrough. But yeah, C tier for these guys. Let's go back to some dogs. Now, let's go to Greavard. Greavard is going to go into the B tier for me. It's just a cool Pokemon. Its evolution, Houndstone, on the other hand, is going to go in the A tier. When I was playing through with one of my friends, they had a Greavard on their team and used it to... He purposely let a bunch of his Pokemon faint and then brought it in to sweep with its signature move. Very, very good Pokemon. Next, we got Flamigo. And Flamigo is another A-tier Pokemon. When I first played through this, the night that I got it, and I was playing through it and I was exploring the land, and then I just see a Flamingo. I was like, is that just a Flamingo? Well, yes, it was. So I battled it, and then I saw its name as Flamigo, and I was like, this thing is great. This thing is great. It is an A-tier Pokemon for me. Next we have Citadel and its evolution, Cetitan. I actually kind of like Citadel. It's going to go in the B tier. Cetitan as well is in the B tier. Really solid Pokemon if you ask me. Next we've got King Gambit. Let's go with King Gambit next. And King Gambit for me is going to sit in the C tier. This was one of the Pokemon that I used on my second playthrough where Annihilate ended up carrying. And King Gambit just really didn't pull through during my playthrough. So I might give it another shot in the future, but as of right now, it's going to go in the C tier. You know, I almost missed Veluza down here in the corner, so let's do Veluza next. Veluza, another F tier Pokemon. It is one of those Pokemon where if you're in the water, it's like the Sharpedo of this generation. It'll come chasing after you, it's fast in the overworld, and then you battle it, and it's the slowest thing ever. I just don't like Veluza. It's not my type of Pokemon. F tier for me. Let's go with Dondozo next. Dondozo... I absolutely love Dondozo. It's gonna go in the B tier for me. It's one of the first Pokemon I ended up shiny hunting where it just turns all white. I love it. And then Tatsugiri, a Pokemon in competitive that's paired with it pretty much exclusively. These Pokemon are gonna go in the C tier. We'll put them in the C tier. They're cool Pokemon. Their design is interesting. They're like little sushi. They're just sushi. That's really all there is to them. They just pair well with Dondozo, who is amazing. We don't have a whole lot left here. So let's, before we get to the Paradox Pokemon, let's go ahead and do the pseudo-legendaries of this game. We'll start with the first form, Frigibax. Frigibax, it's a cute design. I kind of like it. It'll go in the B tier for me. Middle form, Arctibax. You know, it just has the same issue that a lot of second stage evolutions have. It's going to go in the C tier. And Baxcalibur. Baxcalibur is going to sit in the A tier for me. I love the name. I used it in my playthrough. It was slower than I thought, but it hit like a truck. It's such a strong Pokemon. Definitely an A tier. We'll go ahead and go with Gimmighoul next. Gimmighoul, interesting Pokemon. C tier. It's just something you find all over the world. You don't use it. The main reason you go and collect the Gimmighouls is for its evolution, Goldango, which is another S tier Pokemon. When I saw this thing for the first time, I needed to have it. And I went and got it. And it's great. I love it. I love Goldango. Alright, let's move on to... Yeah, we're going to leave the Paradox Pokemon for last. Let's move to the Disaster Trio, I believe is what they're called. So we got Qianpao. I haven't really used it too much. I do like the cat design, though. So it's going to go in the A tier. I actually kind of like its design. Same thing with Chiyu. Chiyu, it's a fish. I love it. I love that it's just a fish. Then you got Wochen, I think is how it's pronounced. I could be wrong. That'll just go in the C tier. It's alright. And same thing with Tinglu. Tinglu will just sit in the C tier as well. I think that leaves us with just the Paradox Pokemon. So let's start with Violets, because I don't like Violets as much as I do Scarlets. So we'll start with Iron Treads. Iron Treads for me, it's gonna be a D tier Pokemon. It's alright. It's just futuristic Dongfan. In fact, a lot of these Paradox Pokemon for me are gonna be in the D tier. Iron Thorns. Iron Thorns is another one. It's just a futuristic, why am I forgetting his name? Tyranitar, there we go. Iron Hands, on the other hand, I really like Iron Hands. Hariyama has always been a Pokemon that I've enjoyed because it was my first shiny Pokemon I ever got. Iron Hands will go in the A tier for me. Iron Jugulus? Also a D tier Pokemon. Iron Moth as well. A lot of these Paradox Pokemon just, they weren't doing it for me. Let's see, who do we have left? I think Iron Valiant. Iron Valiant is actually a really cool looking Pokemon. We're going to put that into the B tier. I think that leaves us with... Oh no, then we got Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle, it's going to go in the C tier. I heard it's strong in competitive Pokemon, or at least singles. It's alright. Iron Bundle's okay. I think that leaves us with just the prehistoric Paradox Pokemon. Great Tusk is going to sit in the B tier. I like that it's a mammoth. It's an ancient mammoth. I love it. We've got Screamtail. Screamtail I actually really enjoy. It's going to be an A tier. It's just a giant Jigglypuff, and I absolutely love it. Brute Bonnet is going to sit in the D tier for me. It's alright. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Slitherwing is just a weird Pokemon, right? It's going to go in the F tier. Fluttermane's going to go in the S tier for me. This thing, I've always loved Misdreavus, so I'm really happy to see that Misdreavus did get a Paradox form, and it is strong. Very, very strong indeed. Next we have Sandy Shocks. Sits in the F tier. It's just a not a Dragonite. It's just a Magneton with legs. It's okay. Then we have the final Paradox Pokemon, Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon is going to go in the A tier for me as well. Very, very nice looking Paradox Pokemon, if I do say so. That leaves us with Miraidon and Koraidon. Miraidon, for me, is going to go in the A tier. It's a solid legendary, but for me, Koraidon is the better legendary. And that is my tier list. That is a long video. If you have made it this far, thank you so much for sticking with me. Let me know what you guys think of my tier list. Again, this is my opinion and what I feel about these Pokemon. I thought a lot of the designs were really good. Some of them are lackluster. Some of them I didn't like for other reasons other than the design. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite Pokemon in this generation is. Mine is by far the Tinkaton and, Tinkatink, Tinkatuff, and Tinkatun. Those are my favorite Pokemon in this game. But yeah, that is going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.